game night. What to play? Something simple, something fun, something quick, something colorful. Aha! It's just so tragically beautiful and hard. When I started the Cardboard Herald over 2 years ago, I launched with 4 different reviews. Games that I thought were great platforms to explore why we like this hobby in the first place, and, good criticism type of stuff. And one of the games that inspired that whole review business was the Grizzled. Not only is it a really cool and interesting cooperative game, but it has fantastic artwork and conveys emotions unlike pretty much any game that I have ever played. It is a game of feelings. Now, I'm excited because today we are checking out the Grizzled Armistice edition. This is a new repackaging and reimplementation of the Grizzled and its expansion at your orders. It also has some deluxeified components and a campaign mode and some other goodies in here, so we're going to be comparing what's in the original versus this new box. So let's take a look at what's inside of the Grizzled Armistice Edition. The first and most noticeable upgrade in Armistice Edition is cosmetic. The character standees have been replaced by some of the best pre-painted miniatures I've ever seen. Calling these miniatures seems somewhat a disservice. These figurines, small statues, they perfectly capture the imaginative character designs of the late Tenyu, giving so much character, table presence, and personality. Less important on the cosmetic front is that the game comes with some nice ultra-thick player reference coasters, though in truth the game is simple enough that I've found that they are seldom utilized. Nice, but not really necessary. The main gameplay feature here is the new campaign mode and integration of the At Your Orders expansion. For those unfamiliar with the expansion, there are a few rule modifications regarding minimum and maximum morale drop every turn, and bolstering the benefits of successful supporting, which offsets the difficulty of managing mission cards, now called daily orders. These are cards where the mission leader draws 2 off the top, selects 1 to have a global effect lasting the round, then puts the other back on top of the deck. These range from mild to downright terrifying, and if you keep passing up on the terrifying ones off the bat, you'll likely end up with some really hard choices down the road. If you haven't played the Grizzled without these take a good game and make it excellent. But Armistice doesn't end there. There's a bunch of new content by way of the campaign. Using a sort of legacy-style story deck, each mission you'll be informed when to proceed through each stage of cards. As you reach certain milestones, sometimes mid-session, other times at the beginning or end, new content will be revealed. Missions start with a basic, unexpansioned game of the Grizzled, and slowly you add more and more content from the At Your Order stuff, eventually to reveal new earnable perks and Armistice-only mechanics like recruits. The recruits are NPCs drawn from the deck who hold their own hand of face-up cards and play or withdraw as normal, except that the current leader gets to choose what cards they play and when they choose to withdraw. Once all their cards are played, they give your cohort a boon of sorts, though the more missions they participate in before playing out their hand, the more they drag on your morale. If you finish their training before depleting the threat deck, new recruits can be drawn. These perks and recruits feel fresh and thematic within the campaign, but that's because they make for good story beats and interesting challenges. For standard games of Grizzled, I prefer the more Spartan experience with less management, and I leave these 2 elements to the campaign. One highlight is the writing. While sparse like everything in the Grizzled, it's evocative and powerful. These are story beats based on real events of World War I. They are impactful, sometimes uplifting, and oftentimes tragic. Though I don't think I'll need to play the campaign again anytime soon, I really enjoyed it, and one of my favorite things about the game is that it is designed with convenience in mind. Tab dividers make saving your game a breeze, and once you're done, you can separate your cards so that the campaign can be played again in the future, which is welcome to say the least. Then, when you're done, you can go right back to playing normal, uplifting, and totally not super soul-crushingly hard The Grizzled, with a nice box, upgraded components, and some new optional mechanics. One more thing. Armistice includes the rules for single and 2-player variants of the Grizzled, originally featured in At Your Orders. While I won't cover the solo here, though I'll make a separate solo addendum if people comment saying that they're really interested in that, this is the first time I'd tried the 2-player variant. While I still think that 3 players is probably my sweet spot for the Grizzled, I had a perfectly wonderful time playing 2 players, where each player managed 2 characters. This does give the table some additional knowledge, but at the expense of your own characters not being able to benefit from from one another's speeches. Normally, I hate double fisting in 2-player and solo player variants, but because the Grizzled is such a simple and elegant game at its core, it felt like it didn't take too much away from the experience at all, and will happily play it again at any player count in the future. So in case you can't tell, I really dig the Armistice edition. Not only is it beautiful with some of the best miniatures I've ever seen, I mean, I just want all miniatures to look like this from now on, but it has a certain reverence for the original game that I think it really deserves. Now, the Grizzled on its own is just an awesome game, and if you don't already own it and you're interested, then this is definitely the edition to pick up. If you already own the Grizzled, this adds some new things that I think are worth exploring, but overall they're kind of novelties. So the miniatures, as much as I love them, they're not used much in the game themselves. They're just standees, representations, avatars of the character that you can either move in or out. The campaign is interesting and fun and matches the tone of the original perfectly, with some good writing and a great tutorialization of the mechanics from the Grizzled and At Your Orders, but it's not groundbreaking. That said, even as an experienced Grizzled player, I still had a lot of fun going through it, and it kept things fresh. So if you already own the original, I wouldn't move to this unless you really love the Grizzled, but if you do love it, then this is kind of a no-brainer. The only drawbacks that I can see are that the original itself was in a much smaller box and the expansion could be condensed down to this box, whereas this thing is much beefier and meatier and is going to be harder to transport from place to place. The other thing is that the Armistice edition specifically says that it's for 1 to 4 players, whereas the Grizzled was 2 to 5, and you could play 1 player with the expansion. So it cuts out the 5th player, but that's okay because the 5th player kind of sucked and was a great way of constantly losing the game. It just made it excessively difficult. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not too big of a deal. If you really wanted to, all the necessary components in here are there in order to play it, just like you were playing the original 2 to 5 player game of the Grizzled. So yeah, there's no more reason for me to keep the original edition, and I will proudly keep the Grizzled Armistice edition on my shelf as the most beautiful version of one of my favorite cooperative games to date. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald. If you enjoyed this video, we have all kinds of other reviews, interviews, and recommendations via writing, podcasts, and video here on our channel and website cardboardherald.com. Our content is audience supported, so if you want to show your support, please visit our Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Cardboard Herald.